want to do it. You're more familiar.
I'll just read what you got.
Yeah. Are we ready to?
Welcome to this Unitarian Universalist Church, which includes our congregations in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, and our folks online. Unitarian Universalist Churches of Central Alabama, which include this congregation of Tuscaloosa and our sister congregation in Birmingham. We are led together by Reverend Julie Comrade. I am Mary Weeks, your worship associate for today's service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. To all who are here this morning, welcome home. Announcements. Please be sure to read the newsletter and e-blasts on Newsnet to stay informed of upcoming events. Here are a few events we hope you will plan to attend with us. There's an XXX. Okay. On the back of your order of service is the contact information for our congregation leaders and staff. Reverend Julie and everyone welcomes your emails. Feel free to reach out. And there are any other announcements from the floor?
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be with you all this morning. First announcement is kind of a downer. Sorry. Some of you got a text message yesterday pretending to be me. That is not me. I will never ask you for gift cards. That is a scam that happens in churches all over the country. They're trying to take advantage of our relationship to one another by saying that, you will do anything for your minister, which is awesome. And we've had this problem in Birmingham probably 6 times in the last year. It's really, really annoying. It really breaks my heart. But if you did go buy eBay gift cards yesterday, please call your bank and they can help you walk through those steps of getting your money back. It's just an unfortunate thing. That is not my phone number. They do not have my phone number. They did not take my phone number. They likely, and this is a conversation for your board later, they likely took the numbers from the order of service or the newsletter because of who they contacted is my guess. So I apologize that happened. I had nothing to do with it. It breaks my heart, but please know that I will never ask you for gift cards. And if something seems fishy about a communication from me, it probably is. Because I will always ask you to send your money through proper church channels, because that is what keeps the 501c3 intact, and that is what is appropriate professionally, okay? I'm never going to ask you to send me money in any indirect way, okay? So I'm sorry that happened before we could talk, but we know now, and hopefully we can move forward. In good news, I have 3 winter writing workshops that are coming up starting January 22nd. We're going to spend one Sunday after church on the Enneagram, one Sunday on preparing for our own funerals, which we all have to, think of eventually. And the third is writing our own credos. So our youth in Birmingham are going to be doing that process this spring. They're going to be doing coming of age. And so we as adults want to model that for them. But it's also just important, as you're talking about welcoming people to your congregation, to having that statement of your belief ready, that you've thought through it and know kind of what you want to talk about. So we're going to be doing all of that in our multi-virtual space, but I want you to be thinking about that, and I hope you'll attend those writing workshops and know that you are welcome to attend those, and I'll be leading those. So, Again, do not send me any gift cards. I do not want them. And again, I'm trying to remember that even the scammers have inherent worth and dignity, and it's really hard for me to do at a time like this. So, with that said, the prelude prepares us for worship. Unless there are any other announcements? We good? Yes. It'll be immediately after the service, about 11:30. Great question. Okay, now. Please rise in body or spirit for the lighting of the chalice. At this hour, in small towns and big cities, in single rooms and ornate sanctuaries, many of our sibling Unitarian Universalist congregations are also lighting a flaming chalice. As we light our chalice today, let us remember that we are part of a great community of faith. May this dancing flame inspire us to fill our lives with the Unitarian Universalist ideals of love, justice, and truth. In the spirit of inclusivity and welcome, please take the next few moments to greet those around you. the circle of lights be? I can probably do that. Do you want to do the opening words? Please.
Opening words. In honor of the risk takers, those that hold the vision with clarity and charge forward with optimism, even in the face of other doubts. You are our lamplighters and our guides. May you never forget the courage it takes to lead the way forward. In honor of our cautious skeptics, those that gather the information needed to navigate the tumultuous waters of change, you are the map makers and the preparers of the stores. May we appreciate your attention to the detail that keep us on course. In honor of the doubters, those that may fear the changing tides of a turbulent world, you are our anchors and remind us of where we have been and where we are as a community now. May we relish your commitment to our history and your passion for who we have become. In honor of the dreamers, those that imagine what we can be, and in this world, you are the wind that blows the sails of change, pushing us ever forward. May we revel always in your whimsy and hope that dares us to never stop becoming.
Please rise in body or spirit and join together in singing hymn number 145.
Deeper into that. Good morning. I am Mary Weeks. I am not a member of the board. Ad-libbing as we go. Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change our world for the better. If this is the first time with us, please let the plate pass. We are just glad you're here. If you wish to join the church this morning, please come up during the offering to sign the membership book. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systematic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. By the work of our hands and the intentions of our hearts, our love is made real. Thank you for this gift.
When we gather in loving community, we remember that we do not travel this earth alone. We share our lives as we light candles and come forward to hold one another in meditative thought and reverence. We invite you to come forward and light a candle from the common flame. You may do so in silence or speaking loudly. You may share with us your name and what is on your heart this morning. Please come forward.
I like this for my daughter who is having a hard time right now.
And Sharon is my granddaughter Isabella. She has something she would like to say.
I am thankful for having my ministry with.
When Eric's mother, Donna, passed away, she's Isabella's nana, and she was very meaningful to Isabella and to Eric's whole family. And her wish was to have, and her son's wish was to have a celebration of her life. And we were able to have it here and have music. We played Motown, we played 70s music, we played rock and roll, and we danced. And that's what they wanted, that's what she wanted, and we were very grateful that we could do that here. Thank you.
Carl, I know our program today is going to include some ideas and some reminiscences about the past and looking forward to the future. I call to your attention, inside your hymnals, one next to you, one down the aisle, people who donated these textbooks or these songbooks in memory of someone or in honor of someone. So if you just look inside, you'll see some of our history.
I'll light one final candle for any joys, concerns, things that may be too tender on our hearts to be spoken.
Today's meditation was written by the Reverend Leslie Fales. All that we have been separately and all that we will become together is stretched out before and behind us like stars scattered across a canvas of sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked together like tandem skydivers working up the courage to jump. Tell me, friends, what have we got to lose? Our fear of failure? Our mistrust of our own talents? What have we got to lose? A poverty of the spirit? The lie that we are alone? What wonders await us in the space between the first leap and the moment our feet or our wheels, however we move our bodies across this precious earth, touch down softly on unknown soil? What have we got to lose that we can't replace with some previously unimaginable joy? Blessed are you, Spirit of life, who has sustained us, enlivened us, and enabled us to reach this moment. Give us courage in our leaping and gratitude in our landing, and share with us in the joy of a long and fruitful ministry together. Let us take a moment of silence. Amen, and blessed be. As I go into the story for all ages, would any of the children like to come forward? Do you want to come sit up here? Yes, yes. We have lots of energy up here. Okay, so today we're thinking about all of those awkward situations we can sometimes be put in, right? Do you all know who Winnie the Pooh is? Everyone know who Winnie the Pooh is? Do you know who Winnie the Pooh is? Yeah? So Winnie the Pooh went over to Rabbit's house one day, and Rabbit had just got back from the store with a bunch of honey. And what do you think Winnie the Pooh wanted to do with that honey? What do you think, Stark? He wanted to eat it, right? Because he's Winnie the Pooh, and all he wants to do is eat honey. So he ate all of Rabbit's honey. I mean, all of it. Rabbit was trying to hide some of it away. Winnie the Pooh found it all. So what happens to us when we eat like a lot, like at Thanksgiving or Christmas, or we have a big meal? What happens to us, Stark? We grow, right? Especially where? Yes, and where do you grow when you get a big meal? Right here in the belly, right? So after Winnie the Pooh had eaten all of Rabbit's honey, he's trying to leave Rabbit's rabbit hole. And so he kind of, goes out the little circular entrance. And what do you think happens? Is it easy for him to squeeze through there? Stark? He got stuck. Now, in my favorite illustration of this story, Winnie the Pooh is stuck for so long that Rabbit is trying to find ways of covering Winnie the Pooh's rump in his home, right? Because that's the part that's sticking out. So he puts a little board across Winnie the Pooh's legs and puts some vases up there and tries to make it pretty. He tries to cover it with a blanket. All of this is his friend who is stuck in his rabbit hole. And meanwhile, Rabbit has to use his back door this whole time because Winnie the Pooh's blocking the front door. And eventually Winnie the Pooh's digests all of that honey and he gets small enough that he's able to get out, but he still can't get out without the help of his friends. How do they get him out, do you think? Yes, Ezio. Yeah, they push him out. They push him on one side and pull him on the other, and they finally get him free, right? And so a lot of times we feel like Winnie the Pooh stuck in Rabbit's hole, right? We just had this wonderful time with our friends, and we're trying to figure out what is happening next. And so that is the purpose of our story this morning, is to think about those times when we're feeling stuck in the hole and trying to remember that there will be something that comes next, and likely whatever it is that's coming next is going to involve some help from our friends, right? So that is our story for this morning. So you all can go back to your seats now. We're not going to sing our song today. We're going to forward to sing and play for us. Do you need to rearrange? That was lovely. Thank you all. So long before the partnership between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham materialized, I was recruited to teach a January term class at Birmingham Southern College, a private Methodist college west of Birmingham. And in some ways, it felt very familiar to my life. A lifetime ago, I attended a small private Methodist college for undergrad, and showing up on campus last week gave me some of the familiarity and the comfortable setting that I remember from my college days. In an attempt to find a vending machine one day, I stumbled upon the Religious Life office. Tucked away in the basement And I knew that if I had attended Birmingham Southern College as a student, that I probably would have lived in those rooms. When I first met my students, I made a lot of those similar parallels and attributed many of my successes to that first college degree, hoping the same for them. As we started our work into our assignments, much of which is self-exploration, I quickly discovered a pall that hung over the room and their hearts. That state-level debate about whether that small private university and the 1,305 students who attend there were worth a $30 million bailout from the state. If it were any other small private university, especially one with different values, I'm pretty sure the check would already be deposited. But this college is different. It affirms Black lives and LGBTQ voices and affirms the inherent worth and dignity of its students. And my students, right now in this position, see nothing but a void when they look into their future, because they don't know what even next semester is going to bring for them. And they're trying to make these decisions on their entire education and their future. Like, should they try and hope that it's going to come through? Or should they go ahead and bail and find somewhere else to be? This uncertainty is really difficult for them to process. They can't imagine life beyond college right now, and they can't imagine that anyway, even if they're just thinking about past their graduation date. I hope that I can help them hold space in this liminal time of waiting and wondering, but it is definitely a stress for them all. I imagine times at this church have felt similar to this, not knowing what the future holds at points, hoping this community will have the same meaning to you as it always has. Change of any kind is really unsettling. But institutional change, especially an institution that you are actively engaged and participating in, an institutional change can feel like you are standing on quicksand. And those moments can be outright frightening. I think of the moment in Lord of the Rings, when Frodo is on his way to his quest of destroying the Ring of Power, and these things keep happening along the way. They're trying to break him down. And at one of those points, they are walking through the dead marshes. Does everyone remember the dead marshes, right? The water that has the freaky spirit faces coming up from the water. It's so creepy. It's the souls of an ancient battlefield. And these souls are encouraging Frodo to give up, to fall in, to surrender to apathy and that calm of not having to fight anymore. And it's really tempting. And at several points, he almost falls in. And at one point, he does fall in, because it is that powerful of a moment. I think of a similar moment in The Princess Bride, when Princess Buttercup and Wesley have finally found one another again. It's supposed to be a happy ending at this moment, and they're in love, and it's wonderful, but they have to get through the fire swamp in order to get to their happy ending. And the fire swamp is full of all of these dangers, including rodents of unusual size, these gigantic possum-looking things that in 1980s animatronics are really quite freaky to look at. And they fight one off, and they're bloodied, and they're tired, and they're exhausted from fighting off this rodent of unusual size, when all of a sudden, in this moment of apparent peace, Buttercup is sucked into the lightning sand, just quickly goes down under the sand, because it's like quicksand, but faster. And there she is in this quicksand, and we think for this moment that this love story is not going to end the way that we want it to end. My third example comes from, and this is stretching a little far for some of you, but back to Get Smart. Y'all remember Maxwell? Not the brightest bulb in the bunch, but my favorite TV show of all time. And Maxwell Smart is, for those of you who haven't seen Get Smart, it's kind of a James Bond knockoff, except James Bond is neither sexy nor intelligent. And so Maxwell Smart, he constantly gets captured by the enemy, and the enemy is called chaos. And so he's constantly getting trapped or bamboozled by the enemy. And he's always in these situations where we think he's not going to escape. He's just kind of trapped there. And these are the moments that stick with us. And they stick with us because they depict these feelings that we have all the time. Wondering whether we should just give up on something. Whether we are forcibly enveloped in danger that we can't control. Something completely out of our control. Or being trapped somewhere and unable to escape. Those are really gripping feelings that all of these shows and movies play into in our regular lives. And it's tempting when we get to those points to just pause or stop the show altogether, because we absolutely cannot stand it when we see a character that we love being in danger. In any movie we watch that has a climactic scene, my adorable little 4-year-old just closes his ears and says, "Please turn it off. This is too scary." And we're trying to help him as parents to say, well, let's see what happens next when we know that there's going to be a good outcome. Teaching him that the bad stuff will appear, but we have to power through to the end. And we adults don't have that luxury of just turning off things when things get rough. We have to make the hero's journey through the peril. We have to move from uncertainty and mystery to the reward beyond. The more peril, the more mystery, and the sweeter the reward. If only it worked that way in real life. I've said before that to various folks here that we don't have a model for what we're doing between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. There are no other Unitarian Universalist churches doing what we are trying to do. And boy, do I wish we just have a template that I could print out and say, X, Y, Z, let's just do these steps, because that would be so much easier. But parts of this arrangement we have figured out, and a lot of them are temporary fixes or trial and error to figure out how we're going to make our best foot forward. And that's a rough place to be. But it's a good place to be because we're in the midst of those moments of figuring out where we need to be. It's not all guessing, though. We're not just, throwing a target or throwing a dart at a target and hoping we're going to get the best. Our leadership teams meet all the time to troubleshoot and problem solve. I'm reading everything I can to figure out how we can make this partnership better going forward. One article I read recently talked about Steve Jobs' recreation of Pixar. When Steve took over Pixar, he was obviously a visionary who had his other problems, but he wanted to change the physical space of where Pixar was meeting. It was in a very traditional office building where there was a small foyer and a bunch of offices closed off from each other. And so they were talking about, is this the best space to meet our needs? And so they asked themselves over and over, what is our most important function as a people who gather together, in this case, employees of Pixar trying to create amazing movies? And so the answer to that question for them was that their most important function was the interaction of their people. That was the most important function. And so instead of individual offices, Jobs looked at ways to get the team talking to one another, formally and informally, creating this middle common ground in the center of the building that drew people to it. He eventually started making everything that was important happen in the center of the building to get people out of their offices and interacting and talking with one another. And that's, frankly, very similar to what we're trying to do in church. We're trying to, at points, pull you out of your regular lives and routines to interact in ways with people who share your values and who can enrich your life experience. It's very similar to church. It's just we're not working together during the week, right? But I want you to think about what is the most important function of the UU congregation of Tuscaloosa. Right? That's a really important question that all of you need to be thinking about, not just your leaders, but it's important to have and to share those conversations about what is most important. In another example, Google, another very successful group of people, they wanted to build the best team that they could. And so they decided they were going to research their employees. And they figured they would find a good personality type or traits that made for the perfect employee. Essentially, they wanted to create a template for hiring, to check A, B, C, D, okay, this person's hired. And they thought that they would find it. And they researched for years and spent millions of dollars trying to figure out what the perfect employee looked like. Instead, what they found was that their best teams that they had in their company provided a sense of psychological safety. These teams were places where people showed sensitivity to one another. They listened well to one another. They respected one another's emotions. And that is a challenging space to create. And it was not all over Google, it was just in certain teams and spaces, but now Google is trying to make that happen all over its company. And that's another piece that, again, we aren't a company, but we are a place that we want those same values. We want people to be able to share their differing opinions in respectful ways. We want to be listened to, right? And we want to respect one another's emotions, whatever's underneath all of that going on in our hearts. And this is something that we all need to think about here in Birmingham, every UU congregation. How well do we as UU congregations show sensitivity to one another? How well do we listen to one another? How well do we respect one another's emotions? There are ways that these successful organizations can teach us about how we can be successful interacting with one another. And another example of what to look for as we build this partnership comes from our own denominational history, specifically that merger that happened in 1961. Before the merger, two denominations existed. The Unitarians, whose doctrine included one God and the humanity of Jesus, and the Universalists, who were markedly Christian, but who believed in universal salvation, and that hell was a literary device, not a physical location that a loving God would send anyone. And it's that moment in history where we get our opening hymn, number 145, Tranquil Streams, which we're not going to sing again. But it's those two streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea that it's talking about in that hymn. That hymn was written after the merger to describe this moment in time when these two organizations came together for the common good. With both denominations struggling in different ways, they began to talk of a partnership and eventually a merger that would allow their separate identities to coexist in the same space. To come together, they each had to sacrifice a major piece of their theological identity. They had to find ways of building bridges between strangers, of getting two international groups to start talking to one another and working together. It seemed an impossible task. There were lots of heated discussions. But what the Unitarians and Universalists did by coming together was to not only create a new religious identity, but a new way of approaching religious identity. They struggled with the idea of local control versus a strong base of operations. And there were things that went well and things that didn't go well as they figured that out. They struggled with how to communicate and where to compromise. We have in our spiritual forebearers the underpinnings of the most hopeful of outcomes, that whatever emerges from our partnership between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, that it's going to be worth it. It's going to allow both of our communities to flourish. How do we look to our past to guide our future? We have the best example right in front of us, when the Unitarians and the Universalists came together. And it's also important to note that, the Unitarians and Universalists coming together is how we came to a place of theological diversity, because neither group wanted to give up what they believed in, right, or what they were fighting for. So we came to a place and created this religion where we have no doctrine and no creed and no required beliefs. Because the way that we come together is in love and communication and compassion and respect for one another. That's what we focus on coming together, not on believing the same things. And that all happened in 1961. It's tempting to remember, Frodo as he's flown into the dead marshes. We really think we're going to lose him at that moment. It really seems, oh my goodness, those souls are going to take him over because he has given up. He is really just done with carrying this weight that he's carrying. And it's tempting to remember that Buttercup, nearly dies in the lightning sand. It's tempting to remember all those times Maxwell Smart was outsmarted by chaos and the world was overtaken nearly every time. It's hard to watch those themes play out in our government, in our institutions, in our churches, in our lives. But the other part of the story that I want to remind you of this morning is that there's more to the story. Samwise Gamgee was there to pull Frodo from the dead marshes, to save him from drowning. Wesley was there to dive into the lightning sand and to rescue Buttercup. And yes, while sometimes, although it was rare, Maxwell Smart was able to escape on his own, his amazing partner, 99, saved the day most of the time. Much credit to Barbara Felton, one of the most wonderful people. And she always let him take credit for it, which I just thought appalling. But the point is, they all had other people there to save them. And as we talk about this partnership between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, we need one another. This is not a case of Birmingham saving Tuscaloosa or Tuscaloosa saving Birmingham. This is a network of mutuality that we are building between our two churches. And I want you to remember that this is a point that we're trying to figure all this out. When we do this, we do this as congregations that honestly want the best for one another. We want to help one another. We want to be cooperative. We want to keep the flame of Unitarian Universalism alive in Central Alabama. Sometimes it feels like we're rescuing one another, but really, if we link arms, we can make it up that steep cliff together. We can hold hands to balance across that narrow walkway. We can model that love and commitment to the rest of our denomination, staying focused on the greater good, valuing each other's emotions and opinions, and moving forward in love. We can navigate this together. As we go forward in love, as we continue this journey together. I asked you for this Sunday to bring items for our time capsule together. And I was initially planning to bring something to fill, but I realized I didn't know the size of what everyone was bringing. So we're going to bring our offerings first, and then we're going to find our capsule. But I want to honor this space. I want to honor the memories made here, the love and affection shared here. I want us to cultivate those good experiences in the midst of this transition. Whatever the future holds, we bring our history with us, and we will be a part of a new creation in the future. So if you brought something with us this morning, I want to move into that time now of bringing it forward, placing it on the altar with the chalice, and if you want, sharing a moment about what you've brought with you to remember those good times in this space as this congregation has developed and grown and evolved over the years. So please come forward.
I brought some pictures of activities that we had in this building and possibly at Moundville. I'm not sure where this picture in the dark is, but most of these are activities that deal with children. We had a lot of children back in the 90s and early 2000s, and they're grown-ups now. But I have one of our Halloween festivities, one that looked like a choir of children singing, and I believe Mary probably was directing. And this is a picture of a children's pageant. And I'm not sure I recognize all the children, but Rose Wright, who's no longer with us, was Mary. This is Zach Reeves. And we're in this picture, but I can't exactly remember what whether it was a child dedication or what kind of ceremony it was. I think that's what it was with our Reverend Barb Jamestone. And this is our wonderful leader and musician, Deb Crocker. And I'm going to finish it up with a picture of my daughter Anna and a little girl that she was very close to, Jenny Albright, and it just shows the relationship between the older and the younger kids. So. And I didn't write on the back of them, but if you want me to, I can take them back and do that later.
This was the most relevant thing I could think of.
This may seem odd and such, it's obviously relevant, it's a coffee cup, but I believe, and I think Pat and Carl need to help me with this, that this was, when we first started in this building, were these not the coffee cups that we had? So this is a 30-year-old coffee cup at this point. It doesn't look too bad inside, but I thought probably, using one of the from the first set of coffee mugs that we started out in the building would be something that would be appropriate to put in there.
I brought pictures too, actually quite a lot. And maybe we can set up a table after the service and spread them out for you to see. Actually, I have hundreds. And these are mostly from the past. I had things scanned to a CD, and I printed them yesterday. And this is in the building, and it's a picture of Charlie Wilson, who helped found this church in 1954. And his wife, JoLynn Wilson. I have old pictures, excuse me, of our early ministers, not A.J. Mathill. How many remember A.J. Mathill? Carl, only Carl. What about Carl Bretz? How many remember Carl Bretz? And he was in this building as a visitor, not an active minister. How many remember Michael Cedar, who taught us Cajun? He was an itinerant minister who came to us about, was it once a month or once a month, and taught us Cajun dancing. And he's still teaching Cajun dancing down in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, that we drove through last weekend. The inimitable Barb Jamestone. Did you ever meet Barb Jamestone? No. And this is a picture of with Barb, of a workshop. And we held many workshops in this building where the Southern District would come and hold weekend workshops and lots of thinking about the future and making papers on the wall. A lot of planning. And Lori Prentice Dunn, a picture of her, who designed and made that banner that we've talked about. Karen, I'm not sure, did you show this picture of, this was taken by the professional photographer, John Earl. John Earl, we had a professional photographer, and he lined up the children. I see Mary and Zach, and this is before David Kopaska-Merkel's accident. And as Karen said, so many of children, and there were vibrant times with lots of kids and lots of activities and fun. This is the first sign that was in front of this building. So a lot of wonderful history, exciting, joyous, fun times. I think I remember the fun a lot. That's what I remember. Thank you. I'm going to put, would you leave things up here?
Thank you all for sharing. Yes, Carl. Sure, yeah.
Can I just say one thing too?
Can you come to the mic so the folks online can hear you?
Yeah. A few years ago, Mary and I worked on a project, and I'll just make it brief, but there are archives. Somewhere in this building, there's some history in the form of documents and papers and photographs. So, it does exist in an orderly fashion.
I might add what Isabel wanted to say this morning. I think really spoke to the freedom of this church, the freedom to have that kind of farewell. And I think that's really important. I think that's the foundation that brought me here.
What I want, that's too high. Okay, but I want to look at something over there. The item that I want to remind you of is hanging on the wall outside. It's a garish pink parade item, which was our first recognition of the welcoming church. And I remember it was a long project. It's Reverend Fred and Alice Parker and several others. And we had movie watching, movie shows, and discussions afterwards. And we had, I think we had a whole month of those, a couple of months of those. And of course, we started the parade for Tuscaloosa Pride Parade, but it morphed into Tuscaloosa Pride event. And there was a recognition given to the church and me actually for starting the whole process of recognizing the LGBTQ plus community in Tuscaloosa. So these are all items that are up there and on the table, so I don't think I could just take them off and put them in the box. But they are in the building, and their memories of them. Thank you.
Well, the thing that comes up for me is not a picture, but a picture in my mind of many, many, many experiences and great memories from here. But the one that comes up for me, that the keystone of it all, is a story. When I was a kid, I used to have to go to the orthodontist in Birmingham, and we'd go from Sylacauga and we'd wind up the 280 like this, and we'd go right past the Unitarian Church. And one day I said to my mother, I said, "What do they believe?" And she said, "Well, una means one, and they don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe in Jesus, Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost." Of course, my mother had no clue. And I said, "Does that mean they're going to go to hell?" And she said, "Yeah, but don't mention that when you're around others." So I had never dreamed I would go to the Unitarian Church. You know, I mean, my mama told me on the way to the orthodontist that would not be. I mean, it never crossed my mind. And my son and I lived up here years ago in what I call the poor man's yacht club, right up here. And I used to take him to church every Sunday. We'd go to the University Presbyterian Church where my mother went. And one day I didn't want to drive all the way to town, so I just said, "Well, let's just walk down here and see what kind of devilment these people are up to." You know, because when we used to go on vacation, my mother would take us to different churches to see what they did. I said, "Let's just go down here and see what they did." And we walked in down here and never left. You know, and growing up, he had great friends here. There were all kinds of people his age, and he still has those friends. We went off to the camp, the mountain, and they had a party. Some people from here had a pool party at a house here in town where he met the girl, the only girlfriend he's ever had in his life, and they're married now and have 2 kids. And they worked for 2 years at the mountain. So, you know, yeah, I just wanted to share that. That's an important part of my life and the life of this church, and how this church congregation contributed to our lives.
Actually, the surfaces that we're using, this wood for this piece and this piece is from a Universalist church in South Alabama, Cohasset. I didn't go to, but I mean, I didn't go down to pick up the wood, but many of our members did. These pews are from that church. We reconstructed them. And in my early woodworking days, I found a design and for these 2 pieces. They're really sort of classic arts and crafts pieces. Not modern at all, but traditional. And, you know, 100-year-old pine is hard to beat. I mean, you can do, you know, it's like having I don't eat steak anymore, but, you know, a good piece of beef makes the best steak. And beautiful 100-year-old wood makes.
Thank you.
Well, that pulpit, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. That pulpit was brought from the University College.
Anyone else like to share? Thank you all for sharing. Again, this is just one of the many steps, but, you know, as you're discouraged or, you know, feeling a type of way about all the transitions this church is going through, I want you to think of those happy and beautiful things. And that those happy and beautiful things happen because of the people here, and all of this other stuff we'll figure out along the way, right? but it's important to have some things to hang our hats on, some tangible items to hold on to. And if you want to write up your memories or whatever, we can include those in the time capsule as well. So we'll keep it open. We're not going to bury it anywhere, obviously. We're going to carry it with us. But I want you to be thinking about how to remember the times in this community, in this physical space, as we, evolve and figure out whatever's happening next, okay? So thank you for participating in that and for being a part of that moment. Before I forget, after the church service today, I should have brought this up in the announcements, but I'm going to be offering an update about the reproductive justice work among UUs in Central Alabama. So if you want to join me, we'll find a classroom after the service, and I'll give you some updates there if you're interested in that work. As for now, please rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn, number 1014, in the teal paperback hymnal. It is our work shared with each other in covenant that creates and sustains this beloved community. We extinguish this chalice, but its light lives on in the directions we have chosen today. The light of this faith lives on in us together, in our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits. Amen, and blessed be. Thank you, Ken. Thank you to all our musicians. Thank you all for being here. Our service has ended. Please go and enjoy coffee and conversation with one another. Let us go in peace.